Another way of seeing how our attention plays tricks with us in many ways is this kind of image, which is ambivalent. So there are two ways of looking at these images and seeing what is there. There are many, many more on the internet which you can look at, but probably the most well-known is this one, which is both an old woman and a young woman. So who can see the young woman and who can see the old woman? Young woman first. So young woman, who can see the old woman? Okay, so that's actually people who can switch between them. Can you see them exactly at the same time?
I have a problem not seeing the young girl while trying to focus on the old
So just to point it out, the young woman is sort of looking away. So her chin is here, nose is there, ear is there, and hairline sort of going down there, etc. Those of you who couldn't see her before, can you see her now? And the old woman has her chin down here, a mouth there, a nose there, an eye there. No? So this is the mouth, this is the chin, nose.
Is there different pictures of this?
This exists in many, many different versions.
Showed us one
Okay.
last time.
Okay,
I
should have coordinated that with him. Anyway, this is a musician. Can you see the musician? Anybody cannot see the musician? No? Can you see the face of the young woman? Yeah. So again, it's difficult to see both at the same time. Either you see one or the other. Same here, a rabbit or a duck. Anyone got problems seeing both? Rabbit or duck. So this one is also quite well known, which is basically that you can see this in two different perspectives. If you look at the yellow part here, this can be either in the front or in the back. So if you look at it and try to imagine that this is in the back, and then afterwards try to sort of bring it to be the front, you can change these lines so that they are either sort of going out of the plane here, like that, and then you have the yellow in the back, or you can imagine it going into the board here and having this sort of being more in the front. And again, it's difficult to have it in both ways at the same time. So you have to decide whether you now see it in one or the other way. And this has all to do with your attention. And to some extent, this is difficult to control voluntarily. You can do it to some extent, but very often it will sort of slip and it will go back to the other way again. This is a continuation of that same thing, but if you notice it, it doesn't really make sense because some of these connections are just not possible as a physical object. So again, it's a visual illusion which is created, but you can make these connect in different ways, but no matter how you do it, it doesn't really actually end up being a cube because it's connected in a way that in some ways doesn't really make sense. But again, it can be turned in very many directions. Another illustration of what attention is all about is the so-called Stroop test, which is basically conflicting information that you have to solve. Again, a kind of an ambivalent signal. So if you have things like this, red, white, green, brown, this is relatively easy because the word is the same as the color. So all of that sort of works quite well until you get some conflicting at some point when it becomes white, but you see red, or brown and you see white instead. And this becomes really, really difficult because if you focus on the word and just say the word, it's relatively easy. Then you just go like that. But if you focus now on the color, you can do that. But if you have to do the other way around and actually read the word but say what you're seeing, what color you're seeing, you get into trouble again because you can only pay attention to one of them at the time. And you have to decide to stick with it. Very often you will again falter, and at some point your attention will slip, so that you end up either giving the name of the color that is written, or you give the color that you're actually seeing. So we spoke a little bit about also this effect, basically, that we have the capacity to focus on what is of interest here and now, the information that we're interested in and paying attention to immediately. And basically this means that we have some means of focusing, in this case, in this experimental setup, where the subject is hearing two different types of information in the two ears. He can decide to focus on what comes in on the left side and completely ignore what comes in on the right side here. So it's basically understanding what kind of process it is in the brain which can sort of move that attention around and make sure that we only sample part of the information which comes into the brain and opens one channel and closes another one.